Welcome to all of you, and thank you for your registration to this webinar. Today we are going to discuss the elements to be provided for the assessment of technical files. The speaker is Christine Quinton. At LNE GMED, Christine is managing the assessment of technical files for Class 3 medical devices. And I am Jean-Luc Lenardre, Sales Engineer at LNE for the healthcare business. The list of elements to be provided for the assessment of technical files was updated recently, and as you may know, this assessment will be facilitated if all the elements are present with the first submission, whether it's for an initial assessment, in case of a change, or in case of a renewal. But before turning it over to Christine, I would like to briefly remind you about the activities that we perform at LNE, the National Laboratory for Testing and Metrology. LNE brings all of its expertise and technical solutions to companies, public sector, and communities, answering performance, competitiveness, and above all, product safety criteria, whatever your field of activity is, whether it's medical, consumer goods, housing, energy, transport, etc. To achieve this, the LNE is accredited for 35 directives and employs about 800 people, most of them high-level engineers and technicians, based in 9 locations in France and abroad. Focusing on the medical and healthcare market, we offer testing for investigation or product qualification, and we are also part of the CB scheme program, making our test reports easily recognized in about 50 countries. We offer various certification as well, such as the ISO 1 in quality, safety, and environment, and also regulatory ones with the CE marking for medical devices and in vitro medical devices. Through our numerous accreditations and recognitions, LNE GMED will also allow you to access international markets, especially with the new medical device single audit program, the MDSAP, which are concerning 5 countries, USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, and Japan. We offer as well calibration and on-site calibration in France and trainings on quality, metrology, or regulatory affairs. You must shortly understand LNE is at your service to accompany you in many of your medical device projects. Let's start the webinar now. Christine Quinton will present you the list of elements to be provided. Christine, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be your speaker again today. And the topic today is about the elements to provide for the assessment of technical files. So we have 4 items to see. The first one is the update of the elements to provide in the frame of an initial assessment. The second item is about the creation of a list of elements to provide in the frame of assessment of a change or a product range extension. Then the update of the list of elements to provide in the frame of a renewal. And at the last page, we have a creation of a recommendation for the submission of technical files. 2 notes to be taken into account before I go on with the presentation. The information in blue are the existing ones in the list, and those in red are the new and or the updated ones. And the sections mentioned in the presentation are the impacted ones by the changes and or updates. So let's start with the initial assessment. In the introduction, we would like to ask the manufacturer to provide an example of a medical device, and if it's not possible, then to send a color photo of it in order for us to see the medical device itself. So at the section 6 of the list, which is about the formal identification of a device, item 1 is about the identification of a variant of a device along with their commercial references. Then we need to get all the references which are included in the declaration of conformity and which are also included with the certificate. And as for the second item, it's about the list of accessories if appropriate, and it is only about the accessories which are covered by the assessment. For the section 8, description of a claimed use. For the item 2, it is about the indications of conditions of use related to the illness, the pathology, and or the handicap treated. For the item 3, mode of action, it should include the use of accessories which are not evaluated in the frame of this assessment if applicable, and it is in order for us to really understand how the device functions. For the item 4, it's about clinical performances claimed for the intended use in line with the illness, the pathology, and or the handicap treated. And for the item 6, it's about the lifetime of the device, but you need to understand as the duration of the maintenance of the clinical performances under normal conditions of use. Section 11.A, which is brand new, is about a device in case it has been put on another market than Europe. Indeed, we receive sometimes initial assessment of devices but which are already put on another market than Europe. And we would like to know whether we can rely on the post-market data provided by the manufacturer, and in that frame we need to know whether the device has been modified or not. For the section 11.1 about the EC design evaluation, item 3 is about the record of the results and conclusion of a transfer on R&D, and it is aligned with the new requirements of the ISO 13485 version 2016 standard. And I would like to remind you that transfer is a part of design, and it is a requirement. And for the item 4, it's about the minutes of all the design review performed during the realization of a project so that we can follow the project during his lifetime. Section 14 is about standards and documents applied by the manufacturer. So we need to get the standard, preferably harmonized, and other documents applied by the manufacturer. Indeed, we have some misunderstanding. Some manufacturers send us the regulatory surveillance, which is about all the standards applied within the company. But what we need to get is the standards applied for the product which is under submission. Section 15 about characteristics of components and finished products. The first item has been slightly modified, and it is dedicated to the specifications of the main components only. The second item has been created, specifications of manufacturing additives, about physical, chemical, biological specifications. And of course, the manufacturer needs to send the revision number, the date of revision of the specification. The item 3 has also been created. It's about the specification of a primary packaging, but you need to understand that is the packaging which has direct contact with the medical device, and we need to know about it because it can change the response to the biological assessment. So with this regard of adjuvant, we decided to issue a definition, which is the following one. It is about any solvent, lubricant, or aid of manufacture that is necessary to the manufacture of a medical device that is not planned to be part of the composition but is potentially present. And adjuvant needs to be distinguished from the additive that is part of a medical device. Section 16, which is about the preclinical evaluation. First item is totally dedicated to the biological evaluation. So this biological evaluation needs to be a structured biological assessment program based on a risk management process. The second section is about preclinical evaluation of all the other characteristics except the biological one. So we need to get the report related to the testing performed along with the certificate of a laboratory which performed the testing and the rationale in case of absence of preclinical testing. Besides, when an assessment refers to a report or a document of a manufacturer which is older than 5 years, the corresponding data must be provided along with a rationale for its applicability. So we would like to invite you to provide your preclinical data under a table format. We have the first column, which is dedicated to the standard, the document, the state of the art. The second column is about the characteristic. The second one is about the specification. The next one is about the requirement. Then we have the demonstration method of conformity, whether it's about testing or rationale. And then we need to get the accreditation number of a laboratory. So I just put 2 examples in order to express the meaning of the table. For example, the standard ISO 7198, the characteristic permeability is a requirement. So we need to get specification regarding porosity and power permeability. And to that purpose, the manufacturer needs to express requirements of physical criteria for porosity and physical criteria for water permeability. The second example is about the standard ISO 868-1, which is about sterile sealing. The specification is about seal strength, and the requirement related to the specification is 1.2 Newton for 15 millimeter. I also added some definitions in order to be sure about what we are talking about. A characteristic is an inherent property of a medical device. Specification is a document stating requirements related to a characteristic. The requirement is a stated expectation, implied or mandatory, but in our case, it is most of the time mandatory. And conformity is the fulfillment of a requirement. So there is a note which has been added, and I would like you to take into account. It's the following one. In the case where the manufacturer would perform the preclinical testing internally or in a laboratory which is not accredited according to the program 17025, LNE GMED could ask for the corresponding validation of the testing method used. So again, testing method has to be validated. And when we ask for the accreditation 17025, this means that the testing method has been duly validated. Section 17 is about the usability file, and it is a brand new section. So why this section? It comes from the MEDDEF 2.7.1 revision 4. Indeed, the MEDDEF expressed that 4 documents have to be aligned between the clinical data, between the usability file, the risk management file, and the IFU. That's why if we want to, LNE GMED want to check this alignment, and so in that purpose we need to get the usability file. So we understand that sometimes usability is controlled in other parts of a quality system or of a document, but I will ask my assessors to give the result of assessment in this section of the report. For section 20 about production, we slightly change the two columns because we have some difficulty sometimes to understand who is the supplier of the physical supplier of the component, the raw materials of the additives, and who is a distributor. And distributor is only about marketing. So if there is a difference between the physical supplier and the distributor, we need to know about these two companies. So let's go now to the creation of a list of elements to provide in the frame of an assessment of a change or a product range extension. Indeed, we have many discussions with the manufacturer because people don't know what to put in those files for modification. So this is a frame, and it is done to support the manufacturer for the submission of their changes. First step, in the introduction, we would like the manufacturer to give a general description of the device, a reminder of it, the description of a change, the elements that are responsible for it and the targeted objectives, the validity date and identification of a certificate which covers the medical device, and a reminder of the medical device destination and its indications. So you will see in this list there is a differences between some information that need to be provided whatever the change is, and the information that has to be provided but depending on the change itself. So I wrote you some examples. Section 1, for example, manufacturer, it is a mandatory information, whatever the change is. For the section 8, which is about description of the claimed use, then the information is to provide if a change impacts this section. If the section is considered not impacted, then a rationale is to be provided by the manufacturer. So you will see in this list, the information is given for each section. So section 11B. And this section is related to the history of the changes which occurred on the medical devices. It is expected that all the changes, substantial as non-substantial, are listed when they are related to the device. For the non-substantial ones, the date and project number of the assessment report are expected. For the non-substantial ones, the rationale of the non-substantiality. For the section 11.1, which is about design, so it is the manufacturer is asked to provide the documents related to the change control at the level of the submitted change and as a minimum the minutes of the final design review. So it is again to align with the requirements of the ISO 13485, which requires now a change control process. So when there is a change, even if it's not on the design of the product itself, then we need to get the documents that are produced through the change control. Usability file, which is added. For post-market data, the item 3 has been slightly updated. So this is about the number and type of complaints in relation with the clinical characteristic, the technical characteristic, the clinical performances, and the usability of the device recorded since the device has been placed on the market or the initial CE marking. So when there is complaints about usability of the device, they have to be forwarded to the LNE Gmail. Let's go now to the updated list of elements to provide in the frame of a renewal. Update of the usability file. Section 11, which is about the changes in the state of the art. So this item has been updated this following way. Summing up of the available data. Update of preclinical assessments if relevant. Results of a testing related to a characteristic claim, the standard. Also the evidences to demonstrate that the compliance to the new or revised standard if relevant. The justification for the absence of preclinical data must be transmitted. Furthermore, when an assessment refers to an evaluation report or a company document that is older than 5 years, the corresponding data must be transmitted and be subject to a justification of its applicability. So to that purpose, we would like you to use also the table with a last column which is dedicated to the justification of the applicability of the data already generated. So now let's go to the process validation. The first one is about cleaning validation. We need to get the evidence of the control of intermediate cleaning if relevant, and the final cleaning validation in the case they have not been assessed by LNE Gmail. In the case where this control and this validation has already been assessed, the number and date of the assessment report are to be provided. The justification of its applicability is expected on the basis of evidences of a process surveillance. As for packaging validation, we need to get the last packaging validation in case it has not been assessed by LNE Gmail. So in case it has been already assessed, we need to get the number and date of assessment report. And the justification of its applicability is expected on the basis of evidences of a process surveillance. Last bullet is about the additional information gained since last evaluation related to the result of stability study and especially real-time stability study. For sterilization validation, we need to get the last validation of estimation of the bioburden in case it has not been evaluated by LNE Gmail. And in the case it has been already assessed, we need to get the number and date of the assessment report, and the justification of its applicability is expected. It is the same for the sterilization validation. We need to get the evidences of a process surveillance, but it depends also on the type of sterilization process. So it is about bioburden, ETO residual, dose audit, along with the analysis of the result during the year prior to the renewal of a CE marking certificate. We also need to get the report of validation of research of paragen or endotoxins, along with the result of a testing during the year prior to the renewal of a CE marking certificate. And it is exactly the same idea for other processes than cleaning, packaging, and sterilization. We need to have a last process validation in case it wouldn't have been assessed by LNE Gmail, in case where this validation has already been assessed. The number of days of the assessment report has to be provided, and justification of their applicability is expected on the basis of evidences of a process surveillance. And the last section is about the creation of a recommendation for the submission of technical files. Indeed, we have some discrepancies in the format of submission of a technical file, and we make suggestion to a manufacturer in the way technical files are submitted. And you are welcome to use this recommendation. So as the last thing that I would like to say is that from now, all these lists are applicable, and please use it for the next submission of your technical file.
Thank you very much, Christine. I would like to explain a little more about how you could have access to that elements, those lists. You have a link on this slide, and you will fill in the form on this web page, and once you send the form, you will receive back the documents, so the questionnaire to be filled in and the list that you selected. Please do not select more than one item at a time, because otherwise it's too many files to be sent and the system doesn't work if you click and select too many boxes at the same time. So take it one at a time, please. Okay, we are done with the explanation. Again, thank you, Christine. I would like to mention our next events. So the next one is in December the 7th. It's the forums that will be held in Paris for the IVD and the medical device about talking, of course, about the new regulation and different topics. The next one is to be held in February 2018 in Paris as well. It will be about the accreditation on the 17025 standard. And of course, we recommend that you take a look at our webinars on the web page where we have our English webinars presented. The new thing is about the training courses that we have. We have about 10 training courses in English for medical device manufacturer. Feel free to look at that, and you're welcome to ask for them. The list is on our web page as well. The next webinar, the next training session, sorry, is, for example, the one about the CE technical file, how to build them, and it will take place on December 14 and 15 in Paris. So do not hesitate to contact us if need be. You will find here our details how to do that. Thank you very much, and have a good day.